from Greenwood Laboratory School, home of the Bluejays.
This is Jaytalk, a podcast produced by our broadcast journalism class.
Stories, interviews, special guests.
And a few surprises along the way.
So give us a follow so you don't miss out.
I'm Cooper Juneau.
I'm Gwendolyn Gellner.
I'm Joe Whitaker.
I'm Kelby Agnew.
And I'm Asher Nelson. Let's get started.
What do you think when you hear the word veteran?
Honor, service, freedom.
Do you have any veterans that you know or admire?
I do. My dad is a veteran, and his dad is a veteran, and my husband's dad and his dad was also a veteran.
So you're from a family of veterans?
Yes, we are, big family of veterans.
When you hear the word veteran, what do you guys think?
Veteran. I mean, someone who fought in the war for the equality of people and for the freedom of the country as well.
My grandfather was a veteran. He worked. He was in the Air Force for 20 years.
I really appreciate my dad and uncle. They both fought in Afghanistan, and I'm just happy that I can still see them today.
I have a lot of family that served, and I look up to them, and I think it's very honorable, and it is an important day.
I think having a call to serve your country is a really neat thing, and those that have the courage to answer that call those are very special people.
This is the week of Veterans Day, when Americans pause to salute the men and women who've served. Thousands of schools like ours took time out to honor military veterans. Let's hear a few clips from the assembly we had here at Greenwood.
Today we gather to honor the men and women who have worn the uniform of our country, the veterans whose courage and devotion have protected the freedoms we often take for granted. So, before we go any further, if there are any veterans here with us today, would you please stand or make yourself known? To every single one of you, we see you, we honor you, and from the bottom of our hearts, we thank you.
You can imagine, since every branch of the military has it's almost like a corporate culture or like a school spirit. The Air Force is kind of a cerebral branch with a lot of psychological pressure. So they used to, in training, they would create basically impossible scenarios for you to endure. And, that built a callus, of course, and then they let you succeed. They would set attainable goals for you, and pretty soon you were pretty awesome, like you were, self-motivated. So one of the takeaways from that is the belief that courage atrophies with lack of use. My mindset when I was an airman was, I'm either going to end up in huge trouble, or I'm going to be great at this.
And then equality and justice endure because there are men and women willing to defend them, to stand for what is right, to protect the vulnerable. So to our veterans, thank you for turning these great ideas into lived ideals. Thank you for defending the freedoms and opportunities that shape our lives here at Greenwood. Your example challenges us to live with character, to serve others, and to use our freedoms responsibly.
Now we meet an actual veteran. His name is Joe Latomsky, and you heard him in those clips from the assembly. we asked him to join Cooper Juneau in an interview about the military, why he signed up, and what the experience taught him. I'll let Cooper take it from here.
And I'm here with Joe Lutomsky, who served in the Air Force. Thank you for being here, and thank you for your service, sir.
Well, thank you for having me. It's flattering and humbling because I'm certainly not a guy who can tell you that his military service was all that challenging or dangerous.
Can you tell me about why you signed up and when you actually made that decision?
So I made the decision to go in the Air Force as an enlisted guy, sort of in midstream between college semesters because I felt like I needed a change. And what was a lingering thought in my mind was, from childhood, I was fascinated by airplanes. I always wanted to be a fighter pilot. And then, of course, I was at one point in my 20s, I grew all the way to 6'7", and then compressed some vertebrae doing extreme sports. And I'm actually not that tall anymore. But in high school, I was, by the time I graduated from high school, I was every bit of 6'6". So everyone in a small town is under the impression that tall guys can't fly fighter planes, and they did a good job convincing me of that. And I actually stopped trying to be ready for college and didn't have a college plan when I graduated from high school. So, it ended up being something I did as an enlisted person instead of going the officer route or going in with a pilot's license. I gave up on all that, and instead I chose a high-tech path. And I got, at the time, what was the second most desirable enlisted job in the Air Force, because the first most desirable was one I didn't want.
Do you have basic training in the Air Force? And if so, was it as bad as most people make it out to be? In those military films, the gauntlet.
It's actually so bad that it's good.
There are a few things we will tell you to do while you are here. All of them require simple yes or no's. All of them require you to move with a purpose. And if you have an attitude, you need to put it away. And if it's showing on your face, you really need to fix your face. Start doing push-ups.
It is incredibly fun. If you're a glutton for punishment, if you like to be insulted, if you love a good workout and having regular meals and having a place to sleep and learning, really good life skills like how to fold a t-shirt into a 6-inch square, keeping boots really shiny and things like that. Those are, I say this jokingly, of course, no disrespect meant to the armed services, but I actually did enjoy basic training. It was a lot like if you went out in the yard and got a 5-gallon pail full of rocks and then you put them all in a big tumbler for 24 hours. It shows you what you're made of.
So that's why my cousin hated it. So,
well, I've heard that. Some guys actually didn't make it through basic training. Some people got to be civilians again. But some of us figured out what we were made of and actually really enjoyed it. It is a screening process, but they try to work with you. If you're having trouble keeping up, or coming up to speed, they do try to work with you.
So what job did you have within the Air Force?
At the time, now keep in mind, if the technology exists, the Air Force has it. At the time, I had the most the most high-level telecommunications type of equipment training. So back in those days, we actually were doing a cutover on an air base, which was the first ever base-wide fiber optic, ComSecure, encrypted communications network designed to handle not only sensitive messaging, but also residential telephone and data circuits and comm links between critical offices on the base, like, the command center and air traffic control and things like that.
Cool. You were overseas in Okinawa, right?
Yes.
How was that? You kind of told a story about that.
Well, I don't know if this is true for every military branch, but the Air Force has this thing called the Dream Sheet. And so while you're in basic training, you're just getting ready for tech school. Then you go for tech school. And again, this is as an enlisted person, from this experience. You go to tech school, which is basically like college with only one topic. So, for example, I was trained for 40 straight hours on how to solder a wire. Guess who's pretty good at soldering still these days? Like, I'm kind of decent at it still. Like if I had some kind of an appliance that needed an individual component replaced on its circuit board, I still know how to do it. So it's kind of handy. But it was overkill, it was redundant, and it was it was like drinking from a fire hose as far as information, right from electron theory all the way up to all the telecommunications equipment that the Air Force used at the time. So there was a lot of schooling there. And then during that schooling, they give you this piece of paper and you say, where do you want to go? Well, I wanted to go to upstate New York or the Northeast or the East Coast or the rest of the continental United States. So, of course, they sent me to Okinawa. Meanwhile, meanwhile, one of my buddies who was 8 days behind me in training, while the policy was if you had a friend who was 7 days maximum behind you in graduation dates in the program, you could actually swap orders with that person if you had permission. This guy was 8 days. He was outside the window. His dream sheet said that he wanted to go to, at the time the Philippines Clark Air Base was still open, he wanted to go to the Philippines, Japan, Okinawa, Hawaii, or Guam. So they sent him to Syracuse, New York. And they sent me to Okinawa because they were showing us who was in charge.
You write down all of these and they try to go exactly opposite side of the world.
Yep.
What kind of things did the time you were in the Air Force teach you? What lessons do you still hold by today?
Well, I know this sounds, you got to take this at face value, but one of the lessons I learned early, probably during boot camp, was about judging individuals only on their merits and the quality of their character. Because you were in direct competition with people from not only every walk of life, in the same country that we all live in, but there were people from other countries wearing that uniform who were serving because they wanted to be U.S. citizens that badly. They already loved our country and they didn't even grow up here. And so for you to sit there as a guy, who grew up in the United States and everything's easy and you're never hungry and you're never cold and you've got a car, which is a sign of wealth in a third world country. We grew up with every modern convenience possible. And then we just assume that we're going to get into the armed forces and possibly it'll be easy. Like maybe all I have to do is show up to work and I'll get promoted. Not the case. You're in direct competition with people who want it a lot more than you do. And so you learn very quickly that you have to gut it out. When the tough gets going, get tougher. You have to prove that you deserve that promotion. And you have to, once you achieve that rank, well, guess what? There are expectations and there are ways of weeding you out if you don't live up to them. It's funny, the training in the military is so effective. Go watch a movie like Lone Survivor and you see those guys who are the apex predators in the DOD context. Anybody in the special operations command, jobs, the SEALs, the Marine Force Recon, the Green Berets, the Air Force parajumpers, the PJs, the rescue guys. Any of those guys are the tip of the spear. They're 1%ers, to say the least. So the point I'm making is our training is so effective. When you look at those guys, the idea of being defeated never even crosses their mind. It's not even an option. Well, in normal guys like me who did safe, quote unquote easy jobs, who are not heroes, but just part of a big machine, the takeaway for us is this indelible impression that you're part of something greater and that you are a contributor to a larger purpose. And there were very few questions about what you were supposed to do. You were supposed to show up and do the thing you were trained for. And that's really black and white. And I kind of miss that because in the real world, there's a lot of gray area. There's a lot of should I do this or shouldn't I?
What would you say to the average teenager, let's say a senior or something, that is considering enlisting after high school?
Well, I would say to slow your roll and do your homework. Go and interview several recruiters and talk to them about the ROTC idea. Because to me, as a business owner, the people that I work with, the people that I've hired, I look at a bachelor's degree like a high school diploma. I think it's just a basic requirement these days. It used to be that made you really special. Like 30 years ago, a bachelor degree was a big deal. Now you almost have to have a master's degree to even make an interview in the corporate world. So I would say to somebody in high school, think about getting the military to pay for your college. Because trust me, just like middle school flew by you, like you blinked and it was over and you're all of a sudden a ninth grader, 6 years in the military sounds like a lot. It's not. I mean, last time I saw some of my friends in the Air Force was 32 years ago, and to me it seems like last week. So the older you get, the faster time passes. If you could trade 6, 7, 8 years of military service for all that education, experience, maturity, and discipline, to me, that sounds like a fair trade.
All right. Well, one last thing. Thank you, of course, for your service and for being here. Also, where did you get those shades? Those are some nice glasses.
I didn't tell you one of my jobs when I was in college. I worked for an eye doctor.
Oh, of course.
That wraps up Jaytalk for this week. Our reporter was Cooper Juneau. Our executive producer is Dave Davis. The Jaytalk theme music you're hearing was created by Hayden Pyle. We'll be back in a couple of weeks with a brand new show. I'm Asher Nelson, and I'll see you next time.